The future is here. An innovation that will change the way the industry works. A Hot 100 chart, updated daily. The most accurate price guide on the market. Every card has its own profile with a wealth of information. Know the precise, real-time value of any card in the system. On demand. You now have the power to unlock the secrets of the hobby. The game changer is here. Card Ladder.
What up?
What's going on? How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. November 20th
Yes.
is upon us. We never started numbering our episodes, but it has to be getting up there, right? Maybe, I don't know. Someone should figure that out. I think we started in May or June. So it's been a little while.
It's the most organic show of all time. We just started live, and then I was like, hey, we should just do this every week.
Somebody asked if this is a base, Luca. It is not, although I wish it was a better grade. I've subbed this twice, got an 8 both times. I have no idea why.
Surprised you didn't get a 5.
Yeah, I do have my 5 is on deck here for my last sub.
Beautiful. Beautiful. There's probably a crease in it, dude. Honestly, it's got to be a crease.
There probably is.
I got this back today. I'd sent in a cross order. This is the only one that crossed. The other were successful.
Boom.
These are cool.
Those are cool, dude. I really like the kind of like the smoke effect that the design has, and it just pops.
Yeah, the detail on these is pretty cool. And I mean, you know, I'm not the biggest like Prism fan. I do have one of these, but like, I don't know. I guess I just like the in-game photos a lot.
Those are 2 awesome Zions right there.
Not cross. I don't know. 10 centering. I feel like these are pretty solid subs, but PSA, and this one did not cross either.
Dang. With the premium subs too.
With the premium, I don't even bother trying to cross if it's not quad plus, you know, or quad or quad plus. It doesn't even make a difference. This one was quad 9.5 and a cross. So, Don't know.
Okay. Well, I suppose enough people have trickled in. We can get started. Like I said, it's November 20th. Welcome everybody to the Crossover Friday Night Live Instagrams. These are now going live Friday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, which is 11 p.m. East Coast time. So a more accessible time for our friends on the East Coast, if you're so inclined. So for those who are listening to the replay on YouTube or whatever, please know you can now tune in at 8 p.m. Pacific time on Friday nights. All right. Do we want to talk about any mail days? Or I have a mail day that I will show. Let me take it out of its slab guard. Let me take it. Okay. So this is the 1998-99 one-of-a-kind Michael Jordan parallel.
Nice.
Serial numbered to 150. And what's really cool about this one being 58 out of 150 is that the other one-of-a-kind that I have from the previous year, from 97-98, which I got not long ago as well, is also number 58 out of 150. So we have the 258 of 150 Michael Jordan one-of-a-kind parallels from Stadium Club from 97-98 and from 98-99. So I'm excited about that. What are the odds that the two to become available for sale most recently are both numbers 58 of 150.
1 in 150 is the exact odds.
Times 2. There is
No,
a
it's just
technical answer to that question.
1 in 150.
Indeed. That is the technically correct answer.
Yep, you asked, so.
True that. Okay, so there they are. I'm very excited. I'm enjoying pairing these cards. As I try to pick and choose spots in the Michael Jordan market that are affordable, I've found the one-of-a-kind inserts to be really sweet. So, okay, that's my little mail day there.
Well, I thought we had you on the LeBron train. We had some momentum, but
oh man, I have one pretty big LeBron. I was looking at another one. I was looking at a really nice one, but dude, some of those LeBrons get pretty dang pricey, man.
They do indeed.
All right. First question. I moved this one to the front of the line because it's very topical. Yeah. This comes from Conrad's Sports Cards. He says NBA free agency / players on the move and or the draft. So we just got some big news about Harrell.
Yep.
Right? What I did not see the report. I've been occupied the last few hours, but then you sent it to me and I said that could be huge for the Lakers. So what's going on with the Lakers right now?
I mean, they're trying to build out their depth, it seems, like they're trying to give some support with maybe some younger guys to carry the load during the regular season so that they can be fresh for the playoffs. That's how I see it. They got rid of Rondo and Dwight Howard, who are great in the playoffs, but don't help very much in the regular season. So I think those are good moves for the regular season. And we'll see how it plays out in the playoffs. Harrell obviously struggled in the playoffs. He had he was going through some heartache with his grandma passing and the bubble, and obviously like the Clippers just imploded as a team. So it's not totally fair to judge Harrell based on last year's playoffs. So we'll see how he does. But I think they're big moves. I like the moves. I like both of them. I thought Ibaka would be a better fit, but we'll see. I think, Davis doesn't really like to play center, so we'll see how that plays out. They're probably looking to fill out with some cheaper big, and then probably trying to keep KCP, and I think that'll about round out their roster.
KCP would be a nice keep. I was not hot on him during the regular season, which I could say of several Lakers players, but he had a really nice playoffs and a nice finals, and that's when it really counts. The team's going to the playoffs, so just need those guys to show up. And then, dude, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that. Harrell and Schroeder are going to help carry a regular season load in a way that Rondo, some of these other guys wouldn't be able to. And that's going to be important because the 72-game regular season is going to be a grind. It's going to be compressed relative to a normal 82-game season. So depth is going to be more useful even than usual as teams need to rest their star players but still pick up wins. Perhaps we could talk very briefly about what's going on with the Milwaukee Bucks. I have a theory. And what happened with the Bucks traded and received Drew Holiday, which was a tremendous addition, but they had to give up George Hill as part of that trade. And Hill was the number 1 3-point shooter by percentage last season in the NBA. So that's a pretty big that's a piece that's lost. That's an important piece to surround Giannis with when it comes to shooting. Then the Bucks announced that they were engaged and had all but finalized, only due to time constraints, the sign and trade that would land them Bogdanovich. And so then if you add Bogdanovich from the Kings, terrific player, one of the starters for Team Serbia, who actually defeated Team USA in the Summer Olympics not long ago. Or I'm sorry, in FIBA, not the Olympics, in FIBA. So very talented player, huge addition, good shooter, good creator. But then there were issues with tampering allegedly surrounding that move, and the issues didn't come from the Bucks or the Kings because both had agreed to in principle. The issues seemed to come from other teams. So then it's unclear if it's just lip service that's being paid by Bogdanovich, but he has retracted his commitment to sign to the Bucks. And so and he says he wants to test free agency. So we wait and see. And my take on this, I wonder what your take is, Josh. But my take on this is that if the Bucks do not land Bogdanovich, They are missing an important offensive piece of firepower that they still will need to round out the picture and to make them a title favorite. I think they'll still be a contender either way, but I think with Bogdanovich, when you were looking at a starting five of Holiday, Bogdanovich, Middleton, Lopez, and Giannis, that was going to be a powerhouse. It still is, but I think that the Bucks felt a lot of pressure. Perhaps maybe they even felt some heat, no pun intended, in order to get Giannis to sign a supermax and to not see him go somewhere else or not try to get a trade. And they almost completed it successfully, but now we sort of have the Bogdanovich thing hanging in the air. So what do you think about the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis right now?
I'd be worried, man. If they can't make like simple deals, I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes with that. Like maybe some guys are worried about Giannis leaving, so they're hesitant to sign or something. Someone mentioned that with Bogdan. Yeah, that's a little bit worrisome. I thought both of those were great pickups, Bogdan and Drew Holiday. I thought Holiday was a major upgrade over Bledsoe, and I thought Bogdan was a great player to fill the void of George Hill shooting. So yeah, that could be bad.
Yeah. So still plenty of time to go, but things are in limbo in Milwaukee. One other commentary I have on free agency right now. So this question came in from R. Hardman 13. He said, do you like the Seth Curry trade? So basically the Mavericks traded Seth Curry to the 76ers, and they got back Josh Richardson and a draft pick. So the Mavs actually had 3 draft picks on draft night. They took Josh Green with the 18th pick. They took Tyrell Terry with the 31st pick, and they took Tyler Bay with the 36th pick, I think it was. And then after listening to recaps from some of the Mavericks specific podcasts, the Mavericks had a clear plan that they executed on draft night. Basically, they traded Seth Curry, but they took Tyrell Terry. Tyrell Terry's NBA comp, which we all know how silly those are, but his NBA comp is Steph Curry, and the reason why is because he has a lot of range. He's an exciting player. That people are thinking that Tyrell Terry will fill in for what Seth Curry was providing. Plus, Curry was injury prone anyway, so the Mavs think they broke even by drafting Tyrell Terry. And then the other 2 guys they picked are just big athletic wing defenders. And the Mavericks apparently organizationally felt that after the Clippers series, the biggest thing that they were missing was big athletic wing defenders. And so they drafted 2 of them, and they also added Josh Richardson, who is an NBA veteran, who is a big wing defender also. So basically what the Mavs did, they added 3 big wing defenders, and they replaced Seth Curry with Tyrell Terry to answer R. Hardman's question. So I don't know how it's going to play out. It's not like a huge, world-moving deal for the Mavericks either way, but that was the theory behind it, and we'll see how it plays out. Okay, are there any other thoughts on the NBA free agency stuff right now?
I was actually thinking about how little the Clippers have done other than like lose players. It seems like the Clippers are just sort of sitting back and waiting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're doing really. They're just sort of like waiting. It seems like they should be going for it right now.
They should.
They really don't have a choice.
No, they need to do – man, losing Harrell, I think, is a pretty big blow to them. He was 6th man of the year, etc. He did not show up in the bubble, but for the reasons you stated. But, yeah, they're in a weird position right now. And then Harden. Oh, can we talk a little bit about the Harden potentialities? This is a fun
one. Oh, yeah. Sure.
Okay, so, there are some rumors on the table that Harden might be headed to the Brooklyn Nets if – all sides can sort of come to accept it. And there seems to be ego involved in addition to finding the right pieces to make the deal. But basically the Nets would have to give up all of their assets in order to have Harden, Kyrie, and Durant as their big 3. Any thoughts on this potential trio?
I don't see why the Rockets would do that. Like, they have him signed for 2 more years. And also they have Russell Westbrook signed for 2 more years. I really don't understand why the Rockets would just and they've said, so I'm not questioning them because they actually have come out and said yeah, we're willing to, get uncomfortable as the article said, and we're willing to just hold our ground, which they should because they have, an MVP, 2 MVPs, and two really good players. They just need to maybe add some new pieces or figure something out. I don't necessarily think they should just trade them away because they had a bad series against the Lakers. I think it's a little bit of an overreaction. So if I were the Rockets, I would hold put. I really don't understand how that works for the Nets either. Like, they would just be Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden and like a bunch of D-leaguers. It would be so insane. Like 3 offensive ball dominant players and then a bunch of randoms. I don't understand how that would work. Like, I get that, you just put the ball out and you have 3 superstars and you figure it out, you win some games, but I just don't see how that works technically.
Dude, we were kind of joking. It would be such a fun thing to watch. I was telling you, I remember Kyrie, I believe it was his first game ever in a Nets uniform. He went off for over 50 points. He shot the ball an ungodly amount of times and ultimately ended up missing the game winner, if memory serves. And I just thought, this is like, welcome to the team. Like, hi, guys, I'm here. I'm Kyrie. I'm going to completely dominate the ball. Thank you for giving your team over to me. Now James Harden, I don't think has the same impact. Like, his usage rate is insane, but he's maybe more, I don't know what the word is. But you're basically going to have that guy, Kyrie, Harden, and Durant all trying to share offensive production. And when Durant went to Golden State, that team was willing to defer to him. I don't know that Harden and Kyrie would be willing to defer to Durant. I'm just not sure who would shoot, how they would figure out who would shoot, and how the egos could coexist on that team.
Yeah, I mean, basketball is so much more than just like putting together big names that can score a lot of points. It's especially in today's game when everything's so hyper efficient and these coaching staffs and everybody have these game plans that really like break the games down into a very few plays where, it can make or break the game. Whether you have like a mid-range shooter who's inefficient that can just lose you the entire game, or you don't have someone that can play defense properly in the right scheme, like it can all implode. And obviously certain superstars can make up for a lot of that. But they don't, like, Durant's the only two-way superstar in that group. So I don't see how that works. Like, they're just, okay, like LeBron and Davis, they have 2 superstars, but both of those guys are like two-way players. Like, Davis is, second in defensive player of the year voting. He's an all-NBA first teamer, great offensive player. LeBron, obviously, like, generational player. It's just a different comparison.
It's a very different comparison. And the Lakers defense, I think, people don't love to glamorize defense. I don't know if glamorize is a word, but people don't love to fetishize defense. But man, the Lakers defense was stout all year, and it was even more stout in the playoffs. It was a big part of their pretty much smooth ride to a championship. I mean, you said, like, you don't want the Rockets shouldn't overreact to losing 4-1. They definitely shouldn't. The Lakers beat everybody 4-1 except for the Heat, who they beat 4-2. So Rockets did just about as well as anybody did against the best team in the league.
I mean, I still think they're favored going into next year if you ask 538.
They probably are. They probably are. Well, we'll leave that one. Okay. Let's transition to cards with this segue. Question from Chrissy Buckets. Hold or sell? And then he gives us 3 players that he wants your opinion on their long-term value.
Long-term.
Long-term.
Okay.
Hold or sell? Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, and Jamal Murray. And so take them in any order you would like.
I wish you hadn't said long-term, because now I'm just going to be Scrooge McDuck over here.
Well, then let us answer short-term and long-term to make it more interesting.
Short-term, I like all 3. I think they're all very exciting players. I especially like Murray. I think he, kind of found his rhythm last year, and we kind of know what Lillard is at this point, and he's not really improving he's not like looking to improve his team or join a big threesome. I think he's pretty content, and I don't see the excitement building with Lillard too much. Mitchell has a lot of potential, obviously. I'm just worried about the Jazz. I don't see them improving very much. But the Nuggets obviously have a ton of potential with Michael Porter Jr., Jokic, Murray, and Murray seemed to find a ton of confidence last year. So Murray seems like and he's always been a little bit, I don't want to say undervalued because everybody says everything's undervalued, but Murray has always been kind of under the radar as a player. and he's in a lower pop year of Prism, which I think is important. It doesn't get talked about a lot. 2016 is very low print compared to these other years. So I like the Murray play, but long term, like I just can't like give you a pick long term and say like, yeah, buy these guys, because I think long term they're all incredibly risky, including Luka.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about as you were speaking there, like as empirical backup. I was looking at Lillard's Prism Base PSA 10. That card experienced as big of a rise and a fall during the COVID NBA era as any card. Oh my God, it looks brutal. Is what if we zoom? Yeah, so. Oh my God. So if we ignore the Rocky Mountains there and just sort of look at there is a clear trajectory outside of that crazy
Soccer?
Right. I know. It looked, he was like a really hot commodity, and then he really cooled off quite a bit, as the graph shows. I think that Lillard is just kind of in for more of that. People will get really, really high on him because he's such an exhilarating player, but it just isn't clear that there's a long-term collector base there yet.
I mean, look at the pop, dude, on the Jamal Murray silver. It's only $139, and the price of his silver is not that much higher than Lillard's base, which has a higher pop, I believe, when we compare.
And Murray is an exciting player in a similar fashion to Lillard. They both are just prolific scorers.
Look at the pop on the Lillard PSA 10 is 679. You know, people always want to talk about 2012 Prism being so much more rare, but 2016 Prism is pretty rare, and the silver is much more rare than the base from 2012. So I think that's a pretty good bargain relative to each other. And Murray, still is. I don't hear anyone talking about Murray, and maybe he just doesn't have enough collectors, or I'm not sure what's going on. Do you ever hear anything talked about Murray? It's almost like
no.
People talk about him because his Prism Silver doesn't sell as much because there's not as many of them. Am I crazy?
I think that's a very plausible hypothesis. And I do know that there's a few people with big Murray cards and like big Jokic cards, but they're like Nuggets collectors. Like that's kind of their in to those players. I couldn't name a super high profile collector of Murray. I just couldn't. And that's weird because, man, that showdown between Murray and Mitchell in round one was just amazing basketball. It was one of the best series of the whole playoffs.
He just he wore down against the Lakers, obviously towards the end, but like, man, he's super young, right? He had 1 year in Kentucky. He came into the league super young. I'd be pretty excited if I was a Nuggets fan and a Jamal Murray collector. It seems like pretty good deal. I mean, the 2016 Prism, it's like the third time I've said it, but 2016 Prism is low print. They're cool cards.
It sure is. And 2016 Prism historically is a really cool set because it has Ben Simmons Prism Silver rookie card. And that's an important card because Simmons had no autographs with Panini. And so 2016 Prism was the first of many different incremental steps in Prism's ascent to being a very important basketball product. Murray, there's a lot to be excited about. I saw that the Nuggets were unable to re-sign Mason Plumlee. He went to the Detroit Pistons, which, like, that sucks because he was a really good backup center, but he's ultimately replaceable, I think. And if you look at the Nuggets, they didn't even know what Michael Porter Jr. was until they were in the bubble. They had no idea what they were dealing with. So now they will have had a, albeit shortened offseason and then a training camp, which starts, I think, on December 1st. To figure out what they can really do with these pieces. I'm sure Mike Malone and the staff have been like really trying to figure out what to do. I'm excited about the Nuggets too. All their stars are super young. Like, I agree. Murray is exciting as a short-term prospect. But there is volatility. Like you said, dude, he can go from having this crazy series against the Jazz to then like the Lakers kind of, muted him quite a bit. So there's some volatility there, but he's an exciting player. And then Mitchell. So Donovan Mitchell is interesting. His one of his select level, I don't remember which one it was. We did a headline on it today at the Card Ladder Instagram account. But Mitchell's select blue PSA 10 just set an all-time high. and it was for around $500, I think, which was cheap, feels cheap. And so to see that's the card. And so to see Mitchell continuing to set highs right now is a good sign for him making a transition from being like a player in Murray's tier, who's going to be buyers going to be very reactionary, to somebody who's going to be a reliable like preseason pickup that people are like counting on is he's going to perform well. So Mitchell perhaps is the most durable from the collector point of view of those three players, in my opinion, going into this season. He's never had that historic volatility that other players have had. And to me, that bodes pretty well because it just means that there's just like a core group of collectors. I can name a high profile Donovan Mitchell collector, right? It's Ross, I can name somebody who just loves Donovan Mitchell and collects the hell out of his stuff. So I think that bodes well for him. And, the Jazz, I mean, I don't know what the Jazz are going to look like next year. And obviously winning is going to be important to his values, doing well, I think. But then again, there's Trae Young, who doesn't need to win anything, doesn't even need to play for 3/4 of the year.
It's not going to last. It's not going to last. You guys can hype Trae Young all you want. You can do it every year. It's eventually going to wear off. So, have fun now.
Trae Young Prism Silver PSA 10s, a handful of them sold yesterday or 2 days ago. Those are now $3,000. That's the market rate. So, look, for comparison's sake,
the market cap comparison on Trae Young Silver to Jamal Murray. Are you kidding me?
Great point.
Come on.
Yes. Look, this is public knowledge. I picked this up on PWCC this week for $3,500. I mean, I just feel like $3,000 is a lot of money, man. That is a respectable amount of money.
Just let's look at this. I have to prove a point. It's just bothering me too. The market cap on the Trae Young Silver PSA 10 is $5.5 million, and the Jamal Murray is $193,000. That's unbelievable. Guys have to understand how something has to maintain this volume. You can't just support up 5.5 million it doesn't just happen magically. Something has to support that. The market cap will play itself out long term. And if you guys are trying to hold up these crazy high numbers on Trae Young when he hasn't done anything, and Jamal Murray just came off the Western Conference Finals and beat a favored Clippers team, you need to think about that.
Dude, great points. And we know that the Nuggets are going to be contenders for many years to come with the core that they have in place and the structure and the team. Now the Hawks the Hawks have the most cap space of any team in the NBA right now, and I know that they were looking at adding Gordon Hayward. They were looking at adding Gallinari. Yeah,
$16 million on Danilo Gallinari.
Oh, I didn't see this happen. Okay, boom. So
Lakers got Harrell for 2 years, $20 million, and the Hawks got Danilo Gallinari for 3 years, $60 million.
Wow. So Gallo is making $20 million a year for 3 years. That's crazy.
Twice as much money as Montrezl Harrell, $6 million a year.
Wow.
I mean, I get that Trae Young is probably the better offensive player. He's the better player, but and people just say, oh, the Hawks just need to get better. I mean, that's a lot of things that have to happen. The Hawks have to find a way to get better. They have to get better players. They have to put it together. They have to have the right coaching staff. They have to move deep into the playoffs. A lot of factors that have to go right in order for Trae Young to hold up these values. Not as much has to go right for Murray. They have a coaching staff. They have young talent around him. They have a dominant big man. They have a lot going for them, the Nuggets. The Hawks have a long ways to go.
Yeah, they do. I was thinking about this week. This is an idea I'm developing, which is that in order for a player to have a collector base, they have to have an unambiguous thing or set of things that they symbolize. And in the stronger that they become symbols of something, like to me, Jordan symbolizes just pathological desire to win. It's clear and unambiguous, just killer mentality, the ultimate competitor. That's what he symbolized to me. LeBron symbolizes all-around greatness. just some in longevity and durability and consistency over excellence over a sustained period of time. Luka symbolizes like an underdog, the ultimate underdog, and somebody who consistently has exceeded expectations. Like these guys all kind of have like symbols. Trae Young has a symbol too. He symbolizes in a similar way like Steph Curry did. You know, they symbolize underdog but relatable. You know, 6'1", whatever, video game style shooting. Like there's a clear imagery and symbolism that they conjure up. Now it's a very different symbolism than what some of the GOATs symbolize. You know, these are very different, but there is a symbolism there. And then the other thing with Trae too is that he is, for better or worse, he's compared directly. His market is compared directly, not to Murray, although that would be reasonable, but instead he's compared to Luka. And so people say, well, if Luka goes up, then Trae must go up, and vice versa. People say if Trae goes up, then Luka must go up, and it just becomes a cycle that feeds itself over and over again without maybe much logic to it. And so just putting Murray against Trae, I mean, if more people started thinking that way, I think you would see a huge boom in Murray's market. But it's a question of like, will people be able to think in those terms? Will they start thinking that way?
People are already like slapping me about Trae's better than Murray. Is he 29 times better? Because that's how much more his market cap is.
Wow. God, that is a staggering number, dude.
It is. And I know that like people love liquidity of the silvers or the new, I get it, but like you're talking long term, this is how it holds up. Like it doesn't just like magically stay high in value because there's a lot of them forever. It has to maintain through consistent play over a long time and continued growth. And if that stops, you're going to have a flood of super high pop cards that just like crash on these guys that can't sustain it. So it looks good now that there's really high liquidity on these Trae Youngs, but like it's not going to look so good if his prices start going down.
It's true. And we know, so on Sports Cards Live with Jeremy Lee several months ago, Brian Gray was on, and he talked about how he spent $1 million in a month buying highly liquid commodity cards. He was focused on 80s football, like Jerry Rice rookies and stuff like that, and John Stockton rookies. He was like focused on that tier of stuff. But we know that there are whales out there like him who are buying up large amounts of cards with enormous bankrolls. And I think like some of that buying, some of these prices we see for Luka, for Trae, for some of the other like really hot players, prospects, they're being propped up by people with a boatload of cash who are, you know, seeing the opportunity to corner the market on certain cards and then sell them in the short term. So I would just think about that. And if a player loses their momentum, it could be doubly dangerous because the big whales are not only going to stop buying that player, they're also going to look to dump their holdings of that player too, potentially, or they'll hold them. I don't know. But that when you think about why a market for a player has gotten that high, you have to think about like who it is who's buying them and for what purpose.
Yeah. I also want to point out that like I know a few Trae Young PC guys like Lamim, and those guys are buying based on collecting because they like the player and they connect to him. And I know Christian's buying like he's not buying the Prism Silver High Pop. He's looking for more unique things for his collection. And I don't want to like shit on those people, and I'm not trying to do that. I fully respect people who collect Trae Young. He's a very collectible, very likable player. There's a lot of cool stuff you can buy of him. Like we talked about last week with, if you want to collect Luka and you're feeling like, you know, the walls are closing in on you, there's still cool stuff. You know, there's still Mosaic and there's still Status and all these different cool cards that are out there. And the same goes for Trae Young. Like if you do like that player and you're raging at me right now, then like I challenge you to go find some cooler stuff and just be careful on these like super high pop, incredibly high market cap things, like you said, where people holding those types of cards are whales and they could dump it at any moment. They're not going to dump, you know, flawless PSA 10 numbered to 15 Trae Young rookie cards. They can't. They don't have any of those.
It's true. And so Lamim, I don't think he would mind it being disclosed that, like, you know, some of the Trae Youngs that he has like the Prism Tiger stripes and Galactics, and like this is the stuff that he has. Like he has really cool collectible cards that aren't quite as susceptible to the ebbs and flow of the high pop commodity cards, which is a really fun way to collect. And speaking of Galactic, 23 over Elo sent me a thing this week. He said, look at this. He showed me that Colin Sexton's Prism Silver PSA 10, his rookie card from 2018, sold for like $350 at auction, if memory serves. Whereas his Galactic PSA 10 sold for $260. Like literally the Galactic went for less than the silver PSA 10 on Sexton. I mean, and his point was similar to the one we're making. Look, if you want to collect these guys, there are amazingly rare and awesome and high grade cards, these guys, that can be had for cheaper than their Prism Silvers. Like, pretty interesting, fun space to, get ahead of the curve and enjoy collecting and owning cards of a player without having to just totally kill yourself going for a Prism Silver.
Crazy, man. It's crazy. Galactic's better looking. I mean, it's obvious. Like we've said it a million times, but the people buying this stuff are just, investors, people looking to flip, or that just doesn't last, man. It doesn't sustain. Like those people get bored and they move on. Like the people buying that kind of stuff aren't looking to like sustain the value of these things long term. So when they get bored of it and they move on, it's just craters.
It's true. Okay. Somewhat related topic. This comes in from Putnam Cards. He says, will this season bring upon us a bigger hobby boom than what we saw last season?
Oh, it's a great question.
It is a great question. What do you think about that?
I think it will, man. I don't know. I mean, last year was obviously insane, but I feel like it will. And I think I just kind of feel it based on like these PWCC auctions, and you can obviously get into this deeper than me, but just some of this all-time high sales that we're seeing on some of this rare stuff, and I just feel like the excitement of like these high comps and these high sales and all these websites, it's just going to bring more and more attention to it, and more new people are going to keep coming in. And as we get closer to things returning, hopefully to normality, with some sort of vaccine or something, then people will kind of be excited to grab on to sports again and rally around fans being back in stadiums, and just more excitement around sports in general. And hopefully that leads more to the hobby. I mean, it's going to be really tough to match last year, but, I guess I'll take the optimistic approach of saying, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, I like the glass half full answer on this one for the reasons you just gave. And we write ladder headlines every night that focus on cards that set all-time highs in the previous day. Over the last 3 days, for the first time ever, I've had to not write about more headlines than I was able to write about. There was so many. I did 26 a few days ago, and there was still dozens that I could have written about. And then yesterday I think I did like 16 or something. There was just so many. I just browsed the list. Trae Young, National Treasures, RPA, BJ's 9.5 set an all-time high. 1958 Topps Jim Brown, PSA 2 set an all-time high. 1986 Topps Jerry Rice, PSA 10 all-time high. 2001 Bowman Chrome, Ichiro Suzuki, Japanese version refractor, BJ's 9.5 all-time high. Spectra Bradley Beal Color Blast, all-time high. Mahomes Knights Templar, PSA 10 all-time high. Just so many all-time highs just across. That was like the title that I put on the headlines yesterday or the other day. Record highs set across 60 years of cards. Just all generations of cards are just seeing phenomenal prices. And I was weary. I was mildly concerned that perhaps August was going to prove similar to like the vintage boom of 2016, which like took years for many cards to get back to the price that they saw in the summer of 2016, and some never did. We're already seeing a number of cards fly past their August all-time highs. And it is worthwhile to note that almost none of the Prism base or the Prism Silvers have matched their August highs yet. Some have, like Trey's has. Lucas has not. And many others have not. But the ones that are just flying past their August record highs are Prism Color, RPAs, Galactics, rare stuff, basically. That stuff is just surging. And Prisms, the base and the silvers are going up too, but not in the refractors, but not at the same rate. So, to answer Putnam's question, we are in the middle of a boom right now. that is setting prices that are higher than the boom that we saw in August for a number of players. And the way the trend is looking, it's like by the time we're 2 weeks into December, we probably will see records set on damn near everybody. So
Yeah.
I think the answer is a pretty resounding yes.
I mean, just hearing myself and you talk about it, I want to take the cautious route and say, like, pump the brakes and, like, just be a little bit cautious and don't get too high and hyped up and everything, and try to play things safe, and, don't just, like, take this for what we said and go out and buy every Prism Silver you can find and expect to triple your money, something like that. Another question that was brought up was, like, if this pandemic, starts to go away and we start to have successful results with vaccines and people kind of go back to their normal lives, that could potentially hurt the market. People back off their phones and off eBay. But one thing I would point out to that is that this pandemic has changed society, like, forever. I think there's going to be long-term changes that come out of it. Even just today, my company just announced that they're giving the option to all of the employees where they can move states, and they're not required to ever come back into the office, and we've become a fully remote company, and any of our employees are free to move to any state they wish. They just have to talk to the manager and work it out. But things like that are happening in a lot of companies where people are adjusting to what's happening, and the physical space is sort of diminishing relative to the virtual space, and we're just going to see more and more things move virtual, and cards are kind of like one of those things that are really they're doing really well because of how easy they are to transact in the virtual space. I think it's just the way it is, right? Like, it's why one of the biggest reasons cards have done so well is just they're small, they're easy to ship, and they're easy to transact. And we've got vaults now, and we've got funds popping up, and there's just all these different things that make it easier and easier to buy and sell sports cards. So keep that in mind as well as another balance. I'm trying to play the two sides as much as I can and try not to get too hyped and not get too dramatic about things. I mean, we just went through the most insane election in the history of the world. I can very safely say we will never see an election like this, and the prices have been stable and going up. So like, I don't know.
Very, very well put, and good balance of opinions. That one of the prevailing theories about why the hobby surged this year was because of COVID and all of the things that it did, like, to people's budgets. Like, it made everybody have all this extra money that they're no longer spending on going out to eat and stuff like that. It allowed them to spend it on cards, and then there was this infusion of cash and the stipends from the government and everything else. And so there's a lot of theorizing that was the cause of the surge. And so I would think about that critically. I would parse it and say, like, well, did that cause the August boom that then, like, saw a substantial retreat? Or was it just, or would we not have had any surge? Like, no, I don't think so. COVID did cause a lot of people to come back into cards, but are they going to stay? I would testify from personal experience that collecting cards is a very sticky thing. People stay with it for sure. So I think, like, that's a consideration too. But, like, the theory is, if one's prevailing theory about why cards did so well this year is because COVID trapped us all inside for an extended period of time, then when that is lifted to the extent that people are no longer stuck at home, then the theory would dictate that interest would move away from cards. But I've never been one to fully subscribe to the theory that COVID caused the resurgence of cards. I think it brought people back to cards, but I think, like, no matter how sitting at home going crazy that we are, it takes a lot to spend $500, $250, let alone $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 on cards. It takes a lot of commitment and enjoyment and trust and faith in sports cards that I think, like, if people weren't, like, really into cards, they probably wouldn't be going in the way that they went in. So I think we have a lot of people who are going to be enjoying sports cards for a long time. That's just my kind of sense of it. But I do want to echo and totally agree with the caveats, or the flip side of the coin that you pointed out, which is that, we are going to enter a period where, we will have more normalcy. there's great news coming out about multiple vaccines. Like, I think that period will eventually be upon us, and each person will have to use their own judgment to decide, what that portends for the sports card market. But I remain pretty darn bullish on it. And I think being able to go to games again, I mean, for Christina and I, being able to go to games only heightened our enjoyment of collecting. I think it's going to be that way for a lot of other people too.
I don't want to spend too much time because we got like a billion questions, but this is a pretty fun topic and it's right up our alley, and I kind of want to keep going. And another thing I wanted to get into is, like, you and I have been talking about, getting into the rare cards, finding those expensive pieces, and that's just kind of always been our thing. And the high end market is absolutely like it's, I can't even describe it. It's more than on fire. White hot, on fire, blazing. We got $150,000 sticker autos. We got $1 million repatched logo mans. We got $100,000 gold prism. We got insane money in the hobby. We got Sotheby's just put up an auction. I don't know if you saw that. That's huge news.
Huge. That is huge.
Huge news. The people that are the buyers for Sotheby's have, infinite money. And so as we see this sort of seemingly infinite flow of money from these high-end hedge funds or, investor guys or whatever, that's serious money, right? Those are real people spending real money, and they're putting their faith sort of in the sports card market, maybe because they think it's fun or they think it's good long term. And I see that as a sign that, like, this isn't going to go away overnight. Like, people, those kind of people they're smart people. They invest a lot of money in real things, and I don't see them just like dumping millions and millions of dollars into something that's going to go away overnight. So, I mean, we've talked about it. The window opened a little bit a couple months ago for high end, and it's slammed shut. Like, the high end stuff is just on fire.
I love that you made that point. It reminds me, I talked to Doug from Mojo Break on their podcast called The Hype earlier this week, and like, he said something that I had never thought of it quite this way. He said, when we're talking about serious, like you just said, serious amounts of money being put into cards by serious people who are not looking to sell those cards at a loss. And so when you have that, and he said that's very different than the boom of the 90s and the 80s, where people put a lot of money into cards, but they were going into $15 cards and $10 cards.
Yeah, same with crypto.
Exactly. And so, whereas with these high-end cards, it's serious money going into these very serious items from people who are not looking to take losses. And when you think about supply and demand and economics and the market and stuff like that, you need both a willing seller and a willing buyer for these items to make transactions work. And like, the thing that characterizes the high-end space is it's much harder to find a willing seller than it is to find a willing buyer. And that's why you can get this stuff like spiraling out of control price-wise in a very short period of time because of that particular dynamic. So I just want to add that on to what you said. Like, I think that's a very interesting salient point regarding the state of the high-end market, is who's buying this stuff and how, and just the difficulty it is to track it down and how infrequently some of it comes to market.
Yeah, because the 90s boom, 80s booms of cards and crypto was like a spread out, very thin layer of people spending low dollar amounts, but in really high volume and across large populations, whereas this is a little bit more focused than, like you said, people that aren't willing to take the loss. So it's different. It's very different in that sense, and I never really thought about it until just now, which is interesting.
So here's a question on a very similar topic, and I love the simplicity of this question. It's a fantastic question. It comes from MXO Cards. He says, "What do you do once you've acquired a Grail?" Just what do you do? I love that question because it's like, it's a really pointed, good question. I wonder what your answer is. What do you do once you get a Grail?
I start over, friend. I start plotting the next one. It's a never-ending fun game. Enjoy it. I think that's my favorite answer here is enjoy the thing. Like, take some time, post on Instagram, show your friends, enjoy it, because it's a lot of work to get a Grail, and I really am a big believer in enjoying your wins and enjoying, life. Because I mean, you're not going to get a Grail too many times in your life. You might as well enjoy it, and you don't want to just always be focused on the next thing. But yeah, I mean, in general, it never ends. So good luck. You're not going to stop there.
It's so true. There's two very different sides of that coin. Like on the one hand, like there's the moment, the period, the you never stop enjoying a Grail, right? Like in like the way that it comes to characterize your PC and like define who you are as a collector will evolve over time, and like it's amazing. It's amazing what a Grail can do psychologically to your collection and to yourself. Your self-confidence. I hate to like reduce it to something like that, but like I can testify to that. Like personally, being able to reach out and get some Grails into my PC was really a confidence booster for me in the hobby. Just put it like that. I mean, I know I'll never be on the same level as many of these guys, but just it made me feel like I'm at least doing something interesting. So like that's the first thing, is like kind of like enjoy the Grail. You'll always enjoy it. It'll always be a part of your PC and kind of who you are for as long as you own that Grail. But then, like you said, the other side of the coin is like, but there's so much fun in the chase. That's such an important part of acquiring Grails. Is like the whole journey is an amazing one, especially when like sometimes we don't always land the Grail. Like sometimes we get beat out for it, or we lose, or we just can't pull it. We just can't get it. So like when that happens, that makes it even better when you finally do land the Grail. So like there is that sense of just like, okay, I have this great Grail, but now it's time to start planning for the next one. It's almost like seasons in the NBA. Like when you land a Grail, like you got the championship that year, and now, okay, but now it's time to start thinking about the next year.
Someone asked, like, what does a Grail mean? More than just like the obvious, it's an expensive card and it was hard to find. I think the biggest answer to that is like the story of how you got it. I'm just a huge, obviously, like Cardboard Chronicles, it's all about like the stories kind of like of how we got here. And I know Gary Vee talks about this a lot, but like making stories of things like the chase, the process, the grind, whatever noun you want to use. But the story that comes out of it is important. And how you got it, how much effort you put into it. I think that's what makes it a Grail, right? Is like it's your Grail. It's your story of how you got it, how hard it was and all that stuff. So it's more than just like enjoying the physical card. It's like enjoying the, like, holy shit, I moved 20 cards in 2 weeks and I figured out how to turn this card into that one. And that whole kind of build up to it is all part of it, right?
So true. So true. And like, there used to be this funny meme that floated around the hobby. I don't have it anymore, but it was like a graph of like the enjoyment level of landing a card. And like the highest point of enjoyment is like when it's in the mail.
Yes.
And it's kind of true, right? Like that period is like really maybe the best part of the whole experience is like when it's coming, when you landed it and it's almost there, and like the anticipation of finally having it. So but great question. I see MXO in the chat. Rookie Patch Auto chimes in with a sage piece of advice. When you barely miss out on a Grail, stay off of eBay for a few weeks. I've made my worst purchases in the days following a Grail mess. Dude, yeah.
You're like, I've got all this money. I got to buy something. This is bullshit.
Seriously, it can go awry. Murphy says, speaking of Grails, is that Luka Gold armpit sticker auto one of the worst picks out there? Big card, but yuck. Yeah, I mean, people spend a lot of money on that card, so I would never want to downplay it. Obviously, some people think it's awesome, but I mean, it's a gold prism Luka auto, but nonetheless, I have heard people say similar things.
It's a little silly. It's silly.
Yeah. I don't think he's ever struck that pose in a game, or will he ever?
For 140 grand, 125 or whatever it was, like, I can find better things to buy.
I think so. I think that is a fair statement.
It's a sticker. It's not even like a true auto. It's just like a secondary. Like Prism isn't even known for autos, and I don't know.
It's not. And there's like a weird bubbling among Luka collectors right now. It's not weird. There's a thing going on with Luka collectors that like they're placing a very high premium on autos right now because it appears that he does not have any autographs in 2019-20 flawless. He doesn't have any in 2019-20 immaculate. And the thinking is that he has this like exclusive deal with Fanatics, so he might not have any Panini autographs anytime soon. So like there's a lot of speculation going into that and driving up the price of his autos.
Gotcha. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, if I owned an auto, I'd be clenching a little bit tighter after that news. And dude, people have always asked me like, "Oh, don't you want Upper Deck to?" No, I do not want Upper Deck back. That just means they're gonna flood the market with LeBron autos. Hell no.
I know. It's true. It's so people say like what about should Jordan get with Panini? And it's like, well, it would be really cool to have like Jordan Prism cards and stuff like that. Like, God,
no auto. You don't want that. Trust me.
Yep, that's the other side of it. That's definitely the other side of it.
I mean, that's easier for me to say because I have the LeBron autos already, and it would be cool for people that are looking for autos to be able to afford one, and I understand that side of it. So, can't be too greedy.
True, and I think you have the best of both worlds there because he can sign a million more items, but he can never sign another rookie card again. So,
dude, we predicted this thing at $72,000.
Yeah, and that's why. So, I think the card that is used as the baseline is the silver BGS 9.5, and I think the last time that sold was like a month ago. So maybe had that card sold again, it would have gone up by enough to get closer to the prediction, but then again, maybe not because the high-end stuff really is just outpacing the silvers and the base. It just is. There's no way around it. We've seen that happen on a number of cards. Makes them very difficult to predict. Or in other words, there's going to be a consistent theme of under prediction on super high-end stuff right now. It is what it is. But by the same token, it also kind of puts into perspective like, wow, maybe a couple of people got a little too gung-ho for this card, and that card is out in front of where the market is at right now.
Totally. Oh, man. It's been a fun hour. This is great. We've got maybe one more short-ish question. So you can't talk if it's going to be one more question.
Okay. All right.
I can rant more than you. I'm just kidding.
Let me throw one more in here for us. This is a great – I think you could wax poetic on this question, but concisely. This is from Putnam Cards. He says, how do you stay focused on hobby goals and not get distracted finding a new chase every day?
The easy answer is just like experience. Like I just kind of know. I guess I've seen a lot of stuff. I would say like that's a tough question. Jump in if you can help me. How do you not get distracted?
It's hard. It's hard, but there's two sides to it because like on the one hand, it's amazing to discover new cards. But on the other hand, only so many cards matter. And like we've talked about going down too many rabbit holes before and how that can end in unpleasant fashion sometimes. Like, so, the thing I would say is I think the cure like is in a mindset personally for me, because I love to discover new cards. But I think like the mindset is like come to the belief that we will all be in the hobby for a very long time, and that there's no rush. There's just no rush to move on from card to card to card to card. There's just no rush. And instead, having a diverse taste in cards could be an advantage if you just are constantly looking for opportunities to add any of those cards that you're looking for. So then you're ready to strike on them when they show up, and you're not just kind of like focusing on one card at a time, and then you're just waiting forever for that card, and maybe some other great cards come and go in the meantime, and you miss some opportunities. So it's not the worst thing in the world to have a lot of different chases, but just to avoid being distracted by them, just think long term, I think is what I would say. And just there will be time to get to every card. There will be time for it. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
That was the perfect answer, honestly. Like I can't really improve on it. I was trying to think about, I mean, you said it perfectly, but I was trying to think of a way that describes like just mentally being disciplined and being smarter, but it's not very tangible advice to just be like, be smarter, So I was trying to think of something. So you rounded it out perfectly. So I agree.
Nice. I see Putnam is in the chat. What's up, man? Putnam has a new channel too, Basketball Card Therapy on YouTube. It is in the content feed of Card Ladder, so you can see when the weekly videos from that channel come out. It'll be in there. But definitely check that out. Great interview with a great collector for the first episode. Definitely worth a watch. So
When did he drop?
that it dropped a few days. It was before we added him to the content feed, so I don't know if a new piece of
Added
content.
him.
Okay.
I back added him.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
I know how to code stuff.
No doubt about that.
You do?
I just can't.
I have a great question for hour 2 that I want Christina to chime in on.
You want to take a break?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, let's take our break. Come back in a few minutes for hour 2.
All right, we'll see you guys in a few minutes. This is a great start. Hour 2 coming up.
The future is here. An innovation that will change the way the industry works. A Hot 100 chart, updated daily. The most accurate price guide on the market. Every card has its own profile with a wealth of information. Know the precise, real-time value of any card in the system. On demand. You now have the power to unlock the secrets of the hobby.